Hi, it's Don McLaughlin from Falcon Discovery at LegalTech 2012. I'm pleased to introduce Jenny Hamilton from the John Deere Legal Department. Jenny, good to have you.
Thank you.
Jenny, briefly tell us your role at John Deere and experience around e-discovery and information management.
In short, my role is Global E-Discovery Counsel, but it actually has gotten very strategic in terms of data security and e-data management compliance issues as well.
Terrific. As you think back the last few years to the way in which courts and lawyers and practitioners manage e-discovery generally, what do you think has improved about the process and how it's managed?
I think that the education and sophistication level of the practitioners and the judiciary who started off a few years ago learning something about this has grown tremendously. But the message needs to get out to a broader group of people still.
And who is that broader group? Do you think that the courts have that responsibility to impress upon lawyers that come into their courtrooms that they need to understand this process? What do you think the courts can do to help improve the process?
Top down is usually an effective strategy for lawyers. So when there's a component where the person's telling you have to do this and this person has the power and relationship, then absolutely I think the more judges need to get on board and acquire the knowledge, and they need to push it down onto the lawyers. And also inside counsel can continue to push it out to outside counsel and vice versa. I think we all need to challenge each other to bring more people into the fold and just raise their game.
So as an example of that sort of top-down approach, the model order and patent cases that the Federal Circuit brought into play, good example of that?
That's a huge step forward. Even if you don't agree with a number of key custodians or you don't agree with the components, somebody has to make the first move. And I think the judge is doing it, and let's just see what happens. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then we can modify. We've got to start somewhere. And so I think it was very effective for them to have the courage to take the first shot at it.
Great. And what do you think for lawyers who perhaps haven't had much e-discovery experience? What do you think comes to mind that you see, even perhaps with outside counsel or your experience in talking with peers, that outside lawyers really need to better understand to better serve their in-house clients?
The shift that needs to happen of transparency from a culture, a legal culture, where it's about being a better gamesman, being better at strategy, taking advantage of your opponent's lack of knowledge, and they need to shift from that culture, which is a big one, to one where it's about transparency. It's about having the courage and earning their paycheck to negotiate these things up front instead of hoping that we never get to that conversation. We're there. We're having a conversation. Let's just all do it at the same time.
Great. We're here at LegalTech 2012. What emerging trends are you picking up on in both technology and process management that you're hopeful to hear more about at the show?
The people are getting more practical. Always a struggle when you're the client and you have a lot of size and volume to figure out how to manage the cost and manage the process and all the activities on a practical level. How can you actually collect the data? How can you do it? And how can you do it for cases that aren't the company cases? Now, you can always go out and write a big check to a sophisticated vendor to get the big case done. What about the $100,000 case?
Which are the majority of the cases?
The majority of the cases, and those have been really swept under the rug for several years in this industry. And I've always been a big advocate of, no, we need to talk about that. How can we get practical and meet our obligations with those cases to still keep the clients happy when they get the bill at the end of the day? And I think that the trend, and maybe it's a little bit of wishful thinking, but I think I'm starting to see people and vendors provide some more practical solutions where you don't have to buy this big license for the enterprise. Maybe you can just buy custodian pay for a smaller 5 key custodians to do the collection. It can be more targeted. There can be less processing. We can actually get it done for something that's not going to shock people.
Break the bank. Okay, great. All right, terrific. Well, Jenny, it's a pleasure talking with you. Have a great time at the show. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.